Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's the evening after the game and we've had a lot of time to sit and reflect. Aston Villa 3, Paris Saint-Germain 2, a scoreline that when we started this podcast, we could never even comprehend Aston Villa beating Paris Saint-Germain in a Champions League quarter-final, albeit it wasn't enough to send us into a semi-final, but that's the game. That's football. I think it's fair to say, though, mate, that is a quarter-final leg that people are not going to forget about for a very, very long time. Not just Villa fans, the football world as a whole. The amount of messages, DMs, everything, like emails at work today from people just saying, bloody hell, you gave it a bloody good go. Like, it almost does it make it feel better? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, mate. But I'm certainly sat here, as I'm sure you are, mate, just immensely proud of the lads and the campaign that we've had this season in the Champions League.
Yeah, it definitely does make it better, mate. Like I am firmly in the camp of if you are going to go out of the Champions League, that's the way to do it. You go out in a real barn burner, 3-2. I don't think there was anybody that left Villa Park yesterday feeling like there was more that we could have done. The lads really did give it everything, and it was just, I don't mean to come across all, for fear of sounding perhaps a little bit timber you can be really, really proud of the club. And it was a real kind of, look where we are, look who we are competing with. I don't think I would quite go as far to say that, we deserve to go through over the two legs. I think fundamentally the better team has progressed from the tie, and I think that was pretty evident from the first leg. But it was a real kind of confidence boost in terms of showing that we're not a plucky underdog at this stage. We can compete. We can go toe to toe. That's the first time that Paris Saint-Germain have conceded 3 goals this season. I think it's the first time that they've lost an away game in their last 13. I think all that they've won their last 13 away games. And so to beat them itself is just an incredible achievement, really. But I suppose there are sources of I don't want to call it frustration because I don't think there's really a part of me that is genuinely frustrated by this result, but it's more the kind of the what if, you know, if what if we didn't concede that 93rd minute winner, you know we created our fair share of chances and created enough chances to put, perhaps another two past Paris Saint-Germain. It was a pretty inspired performance by Gianluigi Donnarumma, but the first goal is really soft that we concede. And, I'm sure we'll break them down individually, mate, but that was a real kind of hammer blow. And just in itself, like within that, if you look at that goal as its own kind of microcosm, like just to come back from that moment, because there was so much kind of, I think everyone in offices up and down the country, every Villa fan was saying, it's all about the first goal. Whoever scores the first goal, that's the one that's going to go on and have the luck. And if it's Paris Saint-Germain, that kills the ties stone dead. If it was the Villa, then it is going to set up this big kind of grandstand finish to the second leg. And it was Paris Saint-Germain that got the first goal. It was Paris Saint-Germain that got the second goal too. And to kind of come back from that and rally ourselves and come back to win, it was pretty remarkable, really. Like just in itself, something that we can really, really be proud of. But there will forever be that kind of nagging feeling that, yeah, I think on a different day there could have been that other goal. And look, like even if we did get another goal, there's still so much to do. We have to go through extra time. We have to go through a penalty shootout. We realistically, like there's still so much to do at that point. We could have seen Rashford strike, hit the back of the net, and we win 4-2. But still, we could have been sat here having this conversation, talking about what if, mate. And so hindsight is 2020 and all that. But no, fundamentally, like what a performance, what a night, what an occasion, one that absolutely we can be very, very proud of indeed.
Yeah, and like I think the thing is, it's like you say, I think overall the better team did go through. And it just shows the levels. Like I think we've been really fortunate this season with the games that we've had in Europe. Uh, I think overall we were dealt like a pretty like average draw. Like we, in terms of like just looking at it purely from a fan perspective, we had Bayern Munich and Juventus come to Villa Park. That's brilliant from a fan's perspective. They're obviously two massive clubs, but both, neither are anywhere near the levels that they've been in any of the last 5, 6, 7 years. Um, and obviously, we go and get results out of that game. Those games, we get a win and a draw. That's great. We've gone to Monaco, who were one of the better sides in the league stage. Okay, didn't go as planned there, but we've gone to Young Boys, difficult place to go and get a result. We, you know, Bruges happens, but we get it done in the knockout. Like we've, I don't want to be disrespectful because especially if you go and if the listeners paid attention to the Juventus and the Bayern Munich podcasts, we were just sat here just like losing our minds at how quickly these guys were able to move the ball around and the genuine quality that these teams had, with the caveat of, but then they've not actually really been that good this season. This is probably the best team that I have seen in my lifetime, mate, come to Villa Park and do what they did. They're better than any of the Man City teams, any of the Liverpool teams that we've had over recent years. Again, because people are going to go mad in the comments, born in '99. So there's, probably any of Manchester United's Premier League winning sides in the '90s or maybe even early 2000s you could throw in there as well. But just the intensity that they play, like the way they move the ball around. Before the game, Luis Enrique said, he just due to the nature of the tie and obviously winning the first leg 3-1, he expected us to be on the front foot and to be dominant, and that wouldn't affect PSG's game plan at all. And I think it's fair to say it didn't. It didn't, did it? We just got caught out with the two goals carelessly. So I don't want to say carelessly, overcommitting and perhaps underestimating the pace and intensity at which these guys attack with. I was convinced with the first goal that Bradley Barcola was offside, but the ball was played with his own half. Matty Cash can't get anywhere near him. People digging out Matty Cash for this, it's just ridiculous. Barcola's lightning quick. Matty Cash was never catching up for him. He had a good 10 yards on him. And, that just is what it is, really. That's the difference between being a top team or not, how direct you are, how clinical you can be taking your chances. The frustrating thing for this first goal for me, mate, is Emi, because the cross is okay from Barcola. Torres looks like he's about to deal with the ball, but Emi's committed to coming out, and it looks like, at least from my perspective, Emi's misjudged where this cross is going to end up, because instead of catching the ball and bringing it back into his chest, he's ended up parrying it out. And Achraf Hakimi, of all players, the right back, is standing right in the middle of the box, ready to slot home. And it's a frustrating goal. It's frustrating that PSG's two goal scorers were their fullbacks, first of all. How often is it that happens? We're like running back, like prime Liverpool, Robertson, Trent, crazy numbers. Like that's the kind of vibe that PSG were going with there. But they're both frustrating goals to concede. They're both like well worked from PSG, but like, obviously being really sort of picky from our side, I think Emi lets us down big time with both of these goals. And it really pains me to say, because like I'm so proud of all of them, and Emi obviously made saves in this game that were very important in the game. But if I had to point to one player and say you could have done more or you could have done better, it would be Emi, and I think he'd be the first person to admit that himself.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough one. I think it's one where it's not the first time, and I tried to remember. I can't remember what game it was, maybe Forest, but there was a very similar mix-up between Torres and Martinez in another game, and I think the two are starting to show that they've not played together in a very, very long time. I'm almost inclined to say that I think they're almost as much to blame as each other, in that I think Torres yeah, he goes to clear the ball. You can see him bring his foot back to put it up for a throw in or a corner, realizes Martinez is there, and then jumps over the ball. Martinez is coming out to scoop it up. Obviously sees Torres bring his foot back, assumes that he's going to clear it, and then there's a kind of mix up between the two, and it happens in a fraction of the second, but it means that Martinez isn't. And it's probably a 60-40 thing. I agree with you, mate. I'm more inclined to weight it towards Martinez, just because he's committed far more than Torres has at the point. So the onus is on him to command that situation and deal with it, given that, you know, he's coming to the forward to collect the ball. But it's a mix up between the two, really. And, you know, I think it starts further up the pitch with Rashford, who cheaply gave the ball away. And it was a real shame, because I don't, you know, it is frustrating in that, look, the 3-1, I can't criticize anybody for the embarrassed. I can't, you know, but this one, like, this is our own doing. Like, this is where, you know, again, like, these kind of moments are what separates the good from the great, in that, you know, you see, you know, Donnarumma and is a goalkeeper that, you know, has made his fair share of mistakes kind of throughout his career. He's not a bulletproof goalkeeper, but when the lights are brightest, you know, look at what he's able to put on, like last night, and it just shows the kind of levels. You know, every goalkeeper's got a mistake in them, but yeah, I mean, when you look at, again, Hakimi's goal, it's a really, really good finish. He, you know, deals with it and puts it away really, really nicely. And then, you know, Nuno Mendes, very similar kind of sentiment to what I shared after the first game, whereby your fullbacks doing that, it's crazy, really. You know, two of the archetypal attacking fullbacks scored two really, really good goals. And that's what I mean. When you're looking at it, then 27 minutes on the clock, you're 2-0 down, it's 5-1 on aggregate. My mind went straight to, please, like, almost, you're kind of begging them to stop there, in a way, because you do not want this amazing Champions League run to end with 7-1 on aggregate, which it so easily could have done at that point. You know, if our heads drop and Paris Saint-Germain get a couple more, I don't think this is the side to be like, look, all right, let's take our foot off the gas. We'll pass this around for the remaining 60 minutes and see this out. They're going to want to go and get a couple of goals. And, you know, you're just like, please don't collapse here. Don't let this end in 7-1 on aggregate, because it leaves such a sour taste. But to come back from that point, that's when you really see what this team are made of, and the mentality that everybody's instilled in them. Because, yeah, it felt like a kick in the stomach when that second goal went in.
Yeah, mate, massively it did. But I think the thing is, like, up until 2-0, we were still, like, creating chances. There were breakaways that we were managing to sort of carve out. But as good as the Paris Saint-Germain midfield is, they left so much space. And when we were able to sort of play around them, we were finding a lot of space. I know we spoke on the podcast a lot of times about wanting to see Tielemans further up the pitch. I love that, because when we're in the final third, obviously he's just such a tidy player, but it's one of them where the intensity of the PSG players and just how quick and athletic they are, it felt like, I don't want to say he was hindering us at all, because he wasn't, but there were, especially towards the end of the game, there were just foot races that he wasn't winning. Again, which is fine. Tielemans was unbelievable as well, by the way, so it's not a criticism of his performance at all, because he was a joke. And I think his goal was, even going in without the deflection, I think he totally beaten Donnarumma, and he takes it well. But, you know, him and Rashford and even Morgs would play these lovely little slide balls all in and around the box, working the combinations, and it gives you hope. And it was giving the crowd hope as well, which is almost the most important thing when it comes to these nights, isn't it, mate? That there's the belief that we can obviously go on and do something, as you say, rather than it ending up being a 7-1, just total slump. Everybody's gone by 60 minutes. So that Tielemans goal was really big in terms of, like, keeping the belief alive. John McGinn. What an... I mean, before we talk about his goal, mate, I want to reiterate, shout out everybody. Everybody was unbelievable in that starting 11. They were phenomenal. I thought Amadou had a really good game. This is the best we've seen Marcus Rashford play in a Villa shirt. Drink every time we say that on the Villa Villa podcast. We're saying it every week, but he's getting better and better. That looked like the Marcus Rashford of old. He was unbelievable, relentless, and deserved a goal himself, I thought. They're all phenomenal. But McGinn, like, again, it feels like every few weeks we're coming on, like, if we have a bad result or performance, like, McGinn's, like, starting to become one of the first people that fans on Twitter are sort of looking to identify and single out. And it's nights like this, and I think, maybe it's easier to kind of look at this in isolation, but like McGinn at this point is Aston Villa Football Club. He's obviously been here for so long. The journey he's been on from his debut at Wigan, I think it was, at Villa Park, to scoring an absolute thundercunt of a goal against Donnarumma. Takes a slight deflection, but nobody's talking about the deflection, Giddy. Don't worry. It's remarkable to see the rise, and it's nights like this which, if you don't know, should really reiterate John McGinn's importance for this football club, because his energy, his combativeness, his willingness to just drag Villa forward, no matter how, like, that's what really put us in good stead for this game. And yeah, again, we didn't win the tie, but we won the game. And it's little things that leaving just a little bit on Kvaratskhelia. Like, it's just meatball being meatball. This was like, if you were to sit somebody down and tell them to just watch John McGinn for 90 minutes, like, this would be the John McGinn performance. Like, you're showing it. If you got to show an alien John McGinn, this is the game you're showing him.
Yeah, isn't it? Look, like, this was my first kind of sentiment, is that, isn't it amazing that he scored? That to kind of, we hope, and I believe that we'll come to this stage again. But you never know. You never know. It could be, our first kind of game at this level for a little while. It's a very competitive league at the moment. And so for him to kind of have that moment, and I think Esri too,
Big time.
For those two to score, considering the journeys that they've been on, considering where the club has been throughout both of their tenures, McGinn more so, is pretty remarkable, and it kind of adds to this kind of fairy tale thing. And I think it's pretty. I'm so glad that those boys particularly got their moments, and as get to winning goals.
It's his goal as well, by the way. How good is that?
Hey, he should have had a brace. Should have had a brace. That chance from the free kick, right? He does so well, and you're right. It's great for Guinea, and just kind of shows that he's definitely got it at this level and can compete. And again, he, as you say, just kind of symbolizes Villa's entire attitude towards this game. And I thought that he was spectacular. I thought Yuri was great. It's just, yeah, really, really nice. That was my overall sentiment, that John McGinn could have that moment scoring against Paris Saint-Germain to really go from scoring in the Champions League, from the Championship. And, you got to remember that I don't think, before Southampton at the weekend, he hadn't scored in the Premier League until that moment. Obviously, he had one in the Champions League, and it was that goal against Bologna, wasn't it? The free kick, which kind of drifts in at the far post, wasn't really intending to score. And so it's not, he's someone that got 6 league goals last season and hasn't notched at the same rate this season. And so for him to get a couple of goals was really, really nice. What an amazing goal as well. He is the man, when I talk about making sure that this game doesn't become a thrashing, he's the one you look to really to grab this team by the scruff of the neck and go, no, not on my watch, not whilst I've got this armband on, this is not happening. And quite literally took it upon himself to drag Villa back into this game after we'd had that really, really important Yuri moment. And when we get that equaliser on the night, it does feel like anything's possible. 2.5 minutes later, Esri slots in, and the game is really, really on. You're absolutely right in saying that this was Rashford's best performance in a Villa shirt. If you're being real, it's probably Marcus Rashford's best performance in about 2 years. Genuinely. But it just flick a switch. Yeah, Dribble just seemed to flick a switch, didn't he? Yeah, it's crazy. Like, just came out of nowhere after what wasn't a great first half, really. But just had 20-25 minutes before he's subbed off in the second half, where you got a glimpse of what Marcus Rashford is really, really like. And this is the Marcus Rashford conundrum: is how do you make sure that it isn't just 20-minute bursts? Like, how do you get that Marcus Rashford for 90 minutes on a week by week basis? That's what Villa need to figure out. And I think we're slowly starting to unlock that puzzle. This is, let's say, probably the best Marcus Rashford performance that anyone has seen in probably since he had that great 22-23 season where he got kind of 30 odd goals. Probably since then, this is the best that he's played. And so, yeah, it really, really gives an insight into, you look at last night, 40 million feels like a snip. But we need to see that kind of more regularly. But that assist is just otherworldly. You know, we've scarcely seen any Villa players throughout the year that can do that, put it on place. And hey, Ezri does really, really well. But again, should have had another assist a few minutes later where he's the one on the free kick that puts it in for Ezri, and it is gilt-edged, really. It's a far easier chance than the one that he put away. And doesn't manage to connect with it at all. And you know, Rashford had chances himself. There's a chance in I think it is the second half where Donnarumma comes out at his feet and he tries to lift it over him and he just can't. Yeah. Rashford had chances too. And so, but no, both of them were great, and that goal will live long in the memory, mate.
I think this is probably one of the few occasions where we can actually look at Emery and say that he actually got this wrong, because I think the changes just killed the momentum that we had. And Asensio is obviously somebody that you want to see in this game, and obviously Ollie as well. After he scored, we both speculated that he would probably start over Marcus, but it just felt like with how Marcus was playing that there was a goal in this game for him, and we kind of lost that. I don't want to say intensity, because Ollie puts himself about the same way, but there's a spring in Rashford. Like, Rashford is just like, he's like so much quicker. He just is quicker than him. And I think he was just putting both of the PSG centre halves under a totally different kind of pressure than Ollie was. Like, it felt like Ollie was very much like between the posts. I'm going to try and rough up Marquinhos with a long ball and try and turn him out. But Rashford was just hounding them both down at any opportunity and forcing mistakes from Donnarumma, which, you know, we weren't always able to capitalise on, but it certainly helped in terms of us building momentum and getting those 2 goals in the second half. Asensio obviously has his chance, as if, you know, the script writers couldn't cook up more of a perfect thing, one-on-one with Donnarumma, tries to bend it round him, doesn't manage to get it over him either. I think it was at that point I was sort of feeling like the game's getting away from us now. And because it's around 65, 70 minutes and there's still a long time to go in the game. And, you know, the guy I was at the game with, my friend Jawan, but, you know, he was saying, no, it's like, you don't want to score too early. That's the last thing you want to do, because, you know, there's obviously still plenty of time for PSG to score. But I just, you know, knowing Villa deep down, I knew that we would rue the missed chance. And I think the best chance that we have after, I mean, there's loads of penalty shots in this game that we didn't get. The John McGinn one specifically was outrageous, awful referee, genuinely awful, has to be said. But the next best chance in that game, mate, was it the Maatsen chance?
Oh, don't make me talk about that.
It's like,
don't make me talk about that.
It's beautiful. Ian Maatsen's got a knack for scoring these as well, which is what makes it even more. I can't remember the name of the PSG centre half now, but the number 51, he seems to block it on the line. Well beats Donnarumma. And I mean, everybody was on the floor. Everybody was on the floor. Like, that goes to show. And I think I even, you know, I'd go as far as even saying that the Barkley check, like any other day, you know, we've been saying for months, where's Ross Barkley? Like, I think,
yeah,
you know, it doesn't feel like many people have been sort of seeing what we see when it comes to Ross Barkley, which is fine. But, you know, I think it's safe to say that this is, you know, a Ross Barkley appreciation podcast, mate. We feel very strongly about Ross. But
yeah.
I just didn't want to see him. And I kind of feel like that substitution just like to me really symbolized like the game had gone. The game had gone because with 5 minutes left to go, sorry, but Ross isn't going to change the game in 5 minutes. And, that's coming from one of his biggest fans. So I think, the culmination of that substitution and the Matson chance getting blocked, it just, I think at that point, Emery knew that we'd kind of played our hand here. And, whilst we'd won the game, we didn't win the war.
Mate, that's it, mate. That's it. It's there's also probably an element of, and this is where I do have maybe a bit of sympathy with Emery, is that there's probably two schools of thought here in that we can't ignore the game that's on the horizon on Saturday, which is huge. Like if we're talking about being in the Champions League going forward, we have to really go and beat Newcastle. It's really hard to imagine a world where Man City are in the Europa League next season. I just
We'll look 5-0 tonight as well.
Exactly. Like they look great. Man City's running. I went and met a mate today who was a City fan, and we were kind of talking about the running and looked at the games that they've got. And their game against us next Tuesday is the hardest game that they've got left. Otherwise, it's a pretty easy running that you'd think even this City team could handle pretty comfortably. And so Newcastle are going to be the side that we're duking out with, and that's on the basis that we hope that Chelsea have to fall out of the picture as well. And so that Newcastle game is huge. And I imagine there's two things going through Emery's mind, in that he's probably looking at it going, we need this version of Marcus Rashford on Saturday for sure. And there's also another element whereby it looks quite likely that we were going to get a goal at that point. And whilst I don't think we would have gotten two, I think extra time probably looked at that point probably the most likely outcome for the 90 minutes, and making sure that we didn't keep any of our key guys on for what was potentially going to be 120 minutes probably came into the back of Emery's mind as well. It wouldn't have surprised me if those kind of subs that we saw around 70 minutes are pre-planned.
Yeah,
just to help. We've seen how rotation happy Emery has been recently, both in terms of the changes to the starting 11 and in terms of the changes that he's made in game. I can't imagine that too many of the changes that we're making at the moment are on the fly. That probably pre-agreed. We're arranging with players. How many minutes do you feel like you can? You've got 70, and okay, we'll do this with Ollie. We'll bring you up at 70. Bring Ollie on. Ollie then can maybe get the start of the week. That's probably how we look at these games now, rather than Emery assessing things on a minute by minute basis. And so, yeah, I do think it probably killed the momentum. But again, like if we did do that and we played 120 minutes, gone to penalties and gone out or something like that, we might have been kind of sat here saying, it's this real shame we've not rotated. These guys are going to be leggy going into the weekend. And so I don't envy Unai's position at all, really.
No, it's a tough one, mate. It's a tough one, but all the players can be and should be absolutely proud of what they've accomplished, not only on the night, but throughout the whole season. There's going to be so many compilations going around of all the pundits, of whether it's Neville, Carragher, anyone who's anyone saying that Villa weren't going to make it out of the league stage, and for us to make it to the quarterfinal, to sew up the 5th place spot in the Premier League, going to a champion, getting the Champions League spot, which is obviously huge as well for us, because realistically it probably is 5th that we're looking at. It's we've really, really done ourselves proud, and it's last time we were at this stage in the competition, we won it. Sadly, that record's over. We can't gloat about that now, but we've done not only us proud, but I think we've done the league proud as well, in a time where it just feels like football isn't English football, domestic football at least, is not very exciting on the whole, and the quality just isn't really all there. Like just been watching the Real Madrid Arsenal game, and we know we can give Arsenal a game, and we've got results against them in recent times. But watching that Real Madrid team, oh my God, what we could have done to that Real Madrid team over 2 legs.
This is what's hard, right? Is that you look at it and it's like, you're potentially looking at a Champions League semi-final with Arsenal, and it's like that's what's kind of frustrating is that don't want to say that you fancy Villa there, but you're not going to get. It's like the same as the FA Cup semi-final, right? And that like Crystal Palace are a very difficult team, but to face a team like Crystal Palace at that stage of the competition is probably about as good as you're going to get. And it felt the same with this kind of side of the Champions League bracket.
100%, mate, 100%. But I think it's fair to say that it's going to be a PSG Barca final. In my eye, I know Arsenal beat PSG earlier in the season, but that was before they were sort of fully formed into their Charizard form that they're in right now. But that's a story for another day. We just got to do the business in the league so we can talk about these games next season, mate. Whether it's Champions League, Europa League, whatever. Hopefully it's Champions League. But again, just really proud of the boys, really proud of the team, proud of the club. It's been an amazing season. It's been an amazing season. So, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit the like button as well. And up the Villa.